Evening guys and girls, and welcome back to Ainge Gaming. Here is the third video in the class preview series detailing the changes coming to Warlocks this time in patch 7.0. Affliction is getting some decent changes to their style of play, this time with even more of an emphasis on dots. Demonology is getting an almost complete overhaul with much more of a focus on summoning demons, and Destruction is not having much done to it as Blizzard feel that it is in quite a decent place overall. Let's dive straight in with the Affliction spec. While Blizzard feel that the Affliction Warlocks gameplay is always aligned well with their character, but in terms of abilities they've wanted to avoid the feeling that DOTs are amplifiers for your channel's single target damage. Applying spells that do damage over time is very core to what they believe Affliction is all about, so what they want to do is reinforce these spells as the primary source of damage, with other filler spells feeling more secondary. They're adjusting the Affliction rotations so that the DOTs are stronger, and your focus is much more on figuring out how to best juggle these DOTs to maximize damage output. Mechanically, they're also altering how soul shards are generated and spent, in part to better deliver on the more DOT-driven damage. Soul shards are now generated by each agony you have up on your targets, instead of only by your most recent corruption cast, to favor placing DOTs on several targets rapidly. You'll then spend soul shards on an extremely long DOT and an unstable Affliction, reinforcing the focus on dots. Finally, in keeping with the Affliction theme, Drain Life is going to serve as your main filler spell, instead of the Malefic Grasp or the Drain Soul. This better matches the Affliction identity because its damage stays secondary to the dots, which should be the primary focus of damage instead of dwarfing them. It also adds significant self-healing, further playing to the Affliction motif, as they like to say. So let's just jump straight in with some of the core ability changes. Firstly, Corruption is now 3% mana, 40 yard range instant. Corrupts the target, causing moderate shadow damage over 14 seconds. Then we have Agony, 3% mana, 40 yard range instant. Inflicts increasing agony on the target, causing a huge amount of shadow damage over 18 seconds. And what's most interesting here is the damage is going to start low and increase over the duration, while Refreshing Agony maintains its current damage level. When Agony deals damage, you'll have a chance to regain a soul shard. Next, looking at Unstable Affliction, it's going to cost you 1 soul shard, 40 yard range, it's got a 1.5 second cast timer, and especially Insidious Affliction that deals strong shadow damage over 8 seconds. If the target dies, the soul shard will be refunded. If Unstable Affliction is dispelled, the dispeller suffers strong shadow damage and is silenced for 4 seconds. Next we have Drain Life, 3% mana plus 4,800 per second, 40 yard range, and it's channeled. Drains life from the target, causing moderate shadow damage and restoring 18% of the caster's health over 6 seconds. Drain life's damage is increased by 50% for each of your Corruption, Agony, and Unstable Affliction effects on the target. The new mastery is Potent Afflictions, increases the damage of Agony, Corruption, and Unstable Affliction by 62.5% with mastery from typical gear. And then as an example of one of the Affliction specific talents, we have Contagion, which is passive, and after you cast Unstable Affliction, you can cast a second one for free within 3 seconds. Overall, this seems to be staying very well within the bounds of what they've newly established the Affliction spec to be, and with a lot of emphasis on your dots. So far, I'm quite impressed. I think it's going to look quite cool. Let me know in the comments below your own views on it. So now let's take a quick look at the Demonology spec and all the changes that are coming to it, because it is getting quite an overhaul. While all Warlocks maintain the power to summon demons, Demonology is supposed to be distinguished by the ability to call forth waves of demons to overwhelm the position, and also further empower the demons they summon. Over the years, they think that they have strayed too far from this design, to the extent that Demonology gameplay has now become more defined by the fact that a Warlock's becoming a demon. Legion provides a fitting opportunity for us to realign the spec around its core function of mastering control of demons, not transforming into them. They've also recognized that Demonology has a large array of intertwined mechanics that weren't intuitive, and they've undergone a greater degree of redesign as a result. They've said that for those who play Demonology during Warlords of Draenor, the gameplay will feel quite different in Legion. Beta test feedback will be essential in helping us to ensure that the new spec feels strong and enjoyable and that they've accomplished their goals of returning Demonology to its foundations. So let's talk about the different core abilities that Demonology will be using. Taking a quick look at it, it's looking really cool and really true to the form of what they're trying to get with. Firstly, let's just start off with the basic one, Shadow Bolt. 6% mana, 40 yard range, 2.5 second cast. Sends a shadowy bolt at the enemy causing minor shadow damage, generates 1 soul shard. Okay, the next one, really cool guys. Call Dreadstalkers. 2 soul shards, 40 yard range, 2 second cast, 15 second cooldown. Summon 2 ferocious Dreadstalkers to attack the target for 12 seconds. Really cool sounding ability. We'll have to see how it works out in the beta. Then we have Hand of Gul'dan. Will cost you 1 to 5 soul shards, 40 yard range, 1.5 second cast. It calls down a demonic meteor full of wild imps which burst forth to attack the target for 12 seconds. Deals up to a strong amount of shadow damage to all enemies within 8 yards and summons up to 5 wild imps based on which soul shards consumed. So obviously you've only got 1 soul shard, it's going to summon 1 up to 5. Next we have Demonic Empowerment. 6% mana, 1.5 second cast time, 12 second recharge to 3 charges. Empowers up to 3 of your active demons with dark energies, increasing their haste and health by 50% for 12 seconds. So I can just imagine that stack up of your base demon, your Dreadstalkers, your imps, and then bang down a Demonic Empowerment and watch the numbers go up. Let's take a quick look at the mastery. It's Master Demonologist. Demonic Empowerment also increases the damage of your demons by 50% with mastery from typical gear. Then we have Doom, 2% mana, 40 yard range, and instant, inflicts impending doom upon the target, causing absolute massive shadow damage after 20 seconds. Generates a soul shard when it deals damage. Demon Wrath, 2.5 mana per second, channeled. Your demons cackle with demonic energy. Every 1 second, all enemies within 10 yards of any of your demons take minor shadow damage. Each time Demon Wrath deals damage, it has a 15% chance to generate a soul shard. May be channeled while moving, which is quite cool. And then let's just quickly take a look at a Demonology specific talent, and they've got Implosion. Costs 6% mana and it's instant. Causes all of your wild imps to be violently yanked toward the target and then explode, dealing moderate shadow damage to all enemies near them. So after looking at that, I have to say that the Demonology Warlock is really standing up to what they're envisioning it to be. You can just imagine the battle right now, calling forth Dreadstalkers, calling forth different imps. I'm sure there will be a couple of talents coming out which you can summon some other things with, as well as your basic demon. It just looks like they truly are upholding what they set out to do, and I'm really looking forward to being able to play this spec more than any of the others. Let me know your own feelings, guys. What do you think? Is it holding up to your expectations, or are you thoroughly disappointed? Now let's take a look at the Destruction Warlock, and it really doesn't look like that much has changed at all, but let's just get on with it. Destruction mechanics are in a solid place overall and are already a good match thematically. That's their word, not mine. So we're taking the opportunity in Legion to provide additional polish on existing gameplay. While resource mechanic functionality isn't being drastically overhauled, we've changed the burning embers back to soul shards. Not only does this return to consistency across all Warlock specs, but it also reestablishes the soul shard as the iconic source of Warlock power. So let's see how that works out with all these different core abilities. The first one that we have to look at is Incinerate. 6% mana, 40 yard range, 2 second cast, draws fire toward the enemy, dealing moderate fire damage. We still got Immolate over there, 6% mana, 40 yard range, standard second cast. Burns the enemy with fire, causing minor fire damage and an additional strong fire damage over 15 seconds. Immolate critical strikes have a 30% chance to regenerate a soul shard. Then we have Conflagrate, 2% mana, 40 yard range, instant 8 second recharge and 2 charges, which is quite interesting. I don't know if that was still there. I haven't played Destruction in a little while. Triggers an explosion of fire on the target, dealing moderate fire damage and generating a soul shard. Also causes backdraft, reducing the cast times of Incinerates and Chaos Bolts by 30% for 5 seconds. Next is Chaos Bolts. It's 2 soul shards, 40 yard range, 2.5 second cast. Unleashes a devastating blast of chaos, causing huge shadow damage. Chaos Bolt always critically strikes, and your critical strike chance increases its damage. Then we have Havoc, 8% mana, 20-second cooldown. Mark a target with Havoc for 8 seconds, causing your single target spells to also strike them. However, it is limited to 1. The Mastery is Chaotic Energies. Your destruction spells deal up to 40% with Mastery from typical gear, additional damage randomly. And then a quick look at a destruction specific talent. It's got Channel Doomfire, 4.8% mana, channeled, and it's 12-second cooldown. Of course it's channeled, it says it in the name. Launches 15 bolts of Fellfire at immolated enemies within 40 yards over 3 seconds. Each bolt deals moderate fire damage. 15, damn, that could really clear some trash. Not much to say about destruction. The main reason of why it's looking and feeling, in my eyes, as more of a destruction warlock is because the other two specs have now been pushed so far away from it. It now looks like it is, in its own right, destruction warlock. But that's just my point of view. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what your own views are on it. So overall, looking back on it all, I am quite happy with all the changes that have happened, especially to Demonology. I really can't wait to get a chance to play it as soon as the beta comes out, and I hopefully manage to get into it. I'm definitely going to play it a lot. It's looking really, really cool. Affliction's little tweaks are definitely bringing a little bit more color to it and making it feel very fleshed out in its own right. And Destruction is definitely starting to stand out a little bit more than the other two in terms of what it's going for. But leave your comments below, guys. Let me know what you think about the different changes that are happening. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you want to burn Blizzard to the ground? Anything like that. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been awesome having you here. Cheers.